If you have chronic pain and are contemplating suicide or want to help someone in chronic pain who is depressed, keep watching this video for recovery tips and resources from someone who has been there. I'm Jessica Shahinian, a spokesperson for TMS awareness, and in my YouTube series, I talk about how to cure chronic pain and other symptoms without drugs, surgery, or physical therapy. Many people with chronic pain will become depressed and even suicidal. You may have heard the quote, "Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem." I hated hearing that quote, as it did nothing to actually help me feel better. To me, my chronic pain felt permanent. Even doctors thought it could be permanent. So to hear people dismiss it so lightly just made me feel further alone. At the time, I thought suicide would be the only permanent solution for my disabling symptoms. But there is another solution. I want to share my story because the point is I got better, and this information may help you get better too. I was a dancer since I could walk, and after graduating with my BFA in dance, I performed internationally. In the summer of 2013, while performing as a dancer and airlift for a well-known cruise line, I became disabled by multiple symptoms and had to be sent home for treatment. Doctors assumed my pain was from the 4 herniated discs and large cartilage tears in both of my hips. For 2 years, every medical treatment or lack of treatment just made me worse. The doctor said I would need multiple surgeries and still never be able to dance again. It got to the point where I couldn't function on my own, as my legs would sometimes collapse when I tried to walk and then stay numb for hours. I had multiple tests for colon cancer and other organ diseases because I had chronic intestinal bleeding and other dysfunctions. I kept having full body tremors and massive anxiety attacks that resembled heart attacks. So the intense pain was far from my worst problem. Here's an example. On my way to an appointment with a hip surgeon, I had a sudden onset of cauda equina syndrome, which meant my legs collapsed, I was wetting myself, I had intense pain in my back with pain shooting down both legs, and the numbness in my groin was spreading fast. I came into his office sobbing, and he told me that he would schedule surgery within a week, but I physically couldn't get up to leave his office. His assistant had to help me hobble to the ER, which was in the same building, so by help I just mean that she took me onto the elevator to the ground floor and left me there. Without any physical exam, the ER doctor ordered 2 doses of liquid morphine. Perhaps you've had it. It's heroin, but stronger. I told them not to give it to me, wanting a solution for all of my symptoms, not an extreme band-aid for just the pain. But they gave it to me anyway. First, I passed out. Then I woke up only because my teeth were chattering, my heart was racing, and my body was convulsing so violently the gurney shook. This lasted for 4.5 hours. So there I was, all alone in a hospital room, thinking I was having a seizure from the superheroine while being unable to get the attention of any nurse. I genuinely thought I was going to die, so I called my mom on the phone. I needed to hear her voice and explain to her what was happening so that it was coming from me and not a hospital report stating, "To whom it may concern, patient came in with back pain and had an allergic reaction to the medication. Contact this number to schedule a pickup of the body." Luckily, I didn't die. The narcotic didn't reduce my pain, but it did make me extremely nauseous. This made riding the subway home a difficult journey, even with the help of a friend. Despite my hip surgeon prescribing immediate surgery, I never heard from him again. None of the workers' comp case adjusters were ever able to get a hold of him or anyone at his office. And yet, this guy was reviewed as one of the top American orthopedists. I could barely get out of bed for a month. It hurt too much to be awake long enough to eat, let alone drink water. One of my doctors suggested a home nurse, but my workers' comp didn't approve it. Not only was I dangerously malnourished, I was bleeding an alarming amount from places you shouldn't be. I got a serious infection from the IV put in my hand for my second colonoscopy, just 8 months after my first colonoscopy. This was when my chest pain started. I was in such poor health that doctors made me stop physical therapy and hold off on surgery. I was in the middle of a guided relaxation exercise in my therapist's office when feelings of grief came up for my father, who passed away from colon cancer when I was 20. I started having symptoms of a heart attack. But I got to experience what it was like to be carried out into an ambulance in Times Square, wait in the ER for 6 hours, only to be given a piece of paper that said, "You had an anxiety attack. Try to reduce stress." The lack of responsiveness was infuriating. I remember having a follow-up appointment with my pain management doctor after my second steroid epidural injection, during which I answered his general questions.
Are you currently working?
No, I haven't been able to work since the injury. I can't stand or sit.
What is your current pain level?
It fluctuates from a 6 to a 10, currently a 6, but I'm really struggling with depression.
Sounds great. See you in a month.
And he was out the door. leaving me alone and bewildered. 7 MRIs later, my 20th doctor asked my workers' comp to schedule spinal surgery right away. Their response? Ending my medical coverage with no further explanation. My injury lawyer said that while he could get them to cover medical care because they were breaking the law not to, that he worried my case would not win enough money to cover his legal expenses after some medical expert who was supposedly experienced treating dancers told him all dancers eventually get injured. That's what dancers do. So he gave up on my case. At one point before this, a neurosurgeon who couldn't figure out why I still had chronic numbness, leg weakness, and incontinence said, "Maybe it's all in your head." To which I responded, "I would love nothing more than for this to all be in my head, because that would mean I don't need surgery to fix it and I could go back to dancing professionally. So please tell me, how do I get it out of my head?" No answer. By this point, most of my friends disappeared. Maybe because I was a downer and they wanted me to think positive, everything happens for a reason and it'll all work out. This lack of empathy made me feel that they thought I was only depressed because I chose to be. Financial anxiety became a big factor as my chronic symptoms made it nearly impossible to earn a living. I was so desperate that I posted on Facebook, "Please help, I'm seeking a genuine way to earn money while bedridden." And the first response, "Become a prostitute." Despite this super thoughtful and not at all mean-spirited suggestion from a former coworker, this did not help. Chronic pain doesn't come by itself. It brings with it rage, anxiety, loneliness, and helplessness. This is why I became suicidal. So here's where it gets better. I learned about Tension Myoneural Syndrome and how stress and emotions can cause an array of chronic physical symptoms, and was cured within a week. Watch part 2 of this video to learn how I got better and how you can too.